Live to see it, friends, and welcome to the World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. At the World Transformed, we want to introduce you to what may be the biggest transformation of them all, the one that begins with considering and acting on the almost limitless possibilities that lie ahead, and that ends somewhere beyond the reach of the human imagination. So, when does this amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
Well, I'm super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Doing great. Got to Thursday, so
we've worked our way through a short week. The only way we can quickly, rapidly work through a short week, and we had a great show on Tuesday talking about accelerating medical technology, and we've got a really interesting topic tonight. You had fed me some great potential content for the show around the Internet of Things, and we are going to talk about the Internet of Things, but I want to contrast the idea of the Internet of Things with this other interesting phenomenon that's going on in our lives, which is the massive growth of our own data footprints. Because I think if you look at both of those phenomena at the same time, it starts to point in kind of they triangulate you into a third direction. And not to spoil the end of the show, we'll start by talking about the Internet of Things. What in the world is that? And why is it important to us?
Well, Internet of Things. Well, obviously, what we think about when we think about the Internet right now is, it's a network, right, of just people contacting each other. And,
yeah, it's a network of computers. It's a bunch of computers hooked together, and people can get on there, and they can share pictures, funny cat pictures with each other on it, among other things. Do stuff like this.
Ultimately, most of the nodes, you would think, are usually people talking back and forth to one another, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't necessarily always have to be that way. In fact, I think ultimately the amount of nodes talking to each other will be, it'll be more machines talking to each other than people. And we're moving in that direction already, and it's only going to become more and more the case. And it's going to be things that we hadn't thought about in the past being computerized at all are going to go that way. This year we're seeing the beginnings of some of these products being launched, and one of the first ones that I saw, Phil, was the toothbrush. You're thinking, why in the world would it be helpful for a toothbrush to be connected to the internet? And so, I thought that article was pretty interesting.
And so why would it be helpful for a toothbrush to be connected to the internet?
That set you up, but you just, you spiked that one, didn't you?
You can tweet with it. You finish brushing your teeth, and then you can...
Yeah. Guess what? I have fresh breath now, ladies.
Exactly.
And, come and get it. No, that's not what it's about at all. It communicates with your dentist ultimately if need be, if you allow it to let give a good report. Everything's going well with this guy's mouth, but really there's it's things like the gamification of getting your teeth clean. I thought that was pretty interesting. You could have your iPhone set up there on the counter, and as you're going through, it says, okay, you might want to stick with this part of your mouth a little longer, and brush here a little longer. Okay, now it's time to move on. No, you're pressing down a little too hard. Don't make your gums bleed. It'll walk you through the.
It's like one of those apps that helps you with your golf swing, only instead it's achieving something much more important potentially.
That's right.
Your oral hygiene, your dental health.
Yeah. Which, by the way, affects other things like heart
right.
disease and things like that. So you have to, taking good care of your mouth is a good idea anyway. And so, will everybody want one of these? I think that some people will find it much too intrusive and would be turned off by even the idea of that. But I think that there's going to be a lot of people who will take it on. This first generation of it seems a little pricey. I think it was in the neighborhood of about $500 for that toothbrush. I think that I'll wait and let an order of magnitude come down, and I'll get it when it's $50. How about you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'll get the Internet of Things toothbrush. I'm not going to commit just yet, but I'll probably have it before I know it. I'll get an update to my current toothbrush, and it'll just come along for the ride. I'll be sending data out to the internet without even realizing it while brushing my teeth. And I think that's a great example because speaks to the fact that we're talking about, I mean, if you can put sensors on a toothbrush, if you can connect a toothbrush to the internet, then what can't you connect to the internet? What isn't going to potentially be a good source of data or something that you want to keep track of? And at the end of the day, there will be few things that fall into the category of we don't want to slap a sensor on it. Sooner or later, everything out there in this world that surrounds us is something that we want to keep track of, or something that can provide interesting data to us, or something that can provide data that we need to us. And the applications go far beyond the consumer world, although we tend to think in those terms. We think about a toothbrush, or I was thinking about, well, if your toothbrush can report to your dentist, what about your fridge reporting to
Yeah.
your doctor, right? Look at what he's eating, right? Or your dishwasher might do that too. Look at the things I'm cleaning off these dishes, you know. A lot of booze in these glasses too, it looks to me like. You know, I mean,
Far too many Twinkies.
exactly, yeah. Well, that's a great thing about Twinkies. They never show up in the dishwasher or the refrigerator. Stealth. As long as
Hey,
you don't have
you know,
sensors
the
in your
Internet of
cabinet.
Things, you have you know, you could have your garbage can connected to it too. So you know.
Yeah. Well, bottom line is all those Twinkies will be sending off signals themselves, right? They'll all have chips attached to them.
Yeah.
But it comes back to the fact that um, data is something that we increasingly rely on to manage everyday tasks. A
Yeah.
car, much more so than it used to be, is an information technology device. Um, a camera, when you think about it, which used to be this physical, chemical, interesting piece of technology, is now, you know, a little bit of additional wiring that they put into a little computer that we call a phone. Um, Everything in the world that exists physically has a potential data component to it, or has the potential to produce data, or to consume data. And so every place that you can think of, and every object that you can think of, potentially becomes a node, becomes a point on the internet in this in this world of Internet of Things. And you know, we think about the consumer applications, but you look at we've talked about not just the future kinds of things that they're going to be doing with drones, but you look at the amazing logistics that Amazon currently employs in their warehouses in order to make their routine deliveries. I mean, that's the Internet of Things already, right? That's the
Yeah.
Internet of Things brought to life, and it's not just Amazon. Companies that rely on managing warehouses, companies that have large fleets or any kind of fleet. Uh,
Soap.com. They have an incredible warehouse with their shelves are basically robots that march around, and almost it looks like they're dancing because they're moving around each other to take the items from one place in the warehouse to another. It's an amazing thing to see. There's YouTube videos on that I highly recommend. But you know, we mentioned one thing that really qualifies as an Internet of Things thing on Tuesday, and that was the dog's nose on a chip that would sniff somebody and be able to tell if they have cancer.
right.
That would, you know, potentially, where would you put that? Well, it might turn your shower into one of those things that you know, it sniffs you out to make sure you don't have cancer every time you take a shower, that kind of thing. So that's you know, again, everything ultimately is improved by adding these things. Now, is there a potential for losing privacy, or what are there privacy concerns? You bet you there are privacy concerns, and so that's going to be a huge conversation that our society has. Is on the one hand, the amazing power that these things can provide versus the amazing intrusiveness into our lives if this data is not protected. That's going to be to me that's a huge battleground in the future.
Right. We have this idea that our data belongs to us. But what about this just stream of data that we're just we're just producing wherever we go? If I walk into a public restroom and there's a sensor in the urinal and I provide data to that sensor, does that data still belong to me? Is it does whoever placed that sensor there have some right to find out what I've been drinking or what I've been eating or what markers I'm carrying for
what
disease, or
illicit drugs or
what
whatever,
drugs, whatever it, whatever it,
illicit or not,
yeah, whatever it might be. Yeah,
yeah,
and you can think about law enforcement doing things like that. You can think about employers putting things like that in place. The fact that you can attach a sensor anywhere provides tremendous potential capability. But you're right, Stephen. Also, tremendous potential for abuse. Tremendous potential to find out a lot of stuff about each other that maybe we don't want anyone knowing. And what the answer to that is, I'm not 100% sure. How much of my data footprint really does belong to me? I don't know. I know that I've got a big one, and I'm probably only conscious of a few percent of it, just the tip of the iceberg of the data footprint that I'm actually producing. And the extent to which it can serve me to my benefit, I'm all about that. But the extent to which it can be used against me, outside of the very obvious cybercrime and identity theft stuff that we think about, we're just going to have our eyes open to that probably in the next few years. We're going to find out how risky it really is to be living in a world, a totally connected world, where we're kind of leaving these, trails of data behind us wherever we go.
right. Well, and there's we are entering a world where governments will be able to track everybody, and then okay, so is that cool? No, not necessarily. Maybe it does help the governments protect us. That's their job. Their job is to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic, right? So there's that issue. But if a government can do it, then a few years after that, a large corporation can do it. A few years after that, an individual can do it.
Right.
And so it's tremendous power for potential abuse. And so that's where the battleground of the future lies in. People wanting and needing this information about themselves, but also needing to protect it. And so it's that's going to be huge.
I think about putting those concerns aside for a moment, because I agree. I think that there's going to be a huge battlefield around that. When we get into the absolute what belongs to me, what's private, who has the right to intrude here, and these kinds of conflicts between the individual and the state, or maybe the individual and the employer. But there's another kind of gray area around how business is going to deal with this, because the Internet of Things, the telemetry data, the sensor data are all unbelievably powerful potential marketing tools, and not necessarily in a bad and intrusive way. I mean, the idea that if there's a sensor in my fridge that knows that I've usually got golden spicy brown mustard and it's very low, and I show up at the store and my smartphone bleeps with a coupon saying, hey, this would be a great time to buy some of that because you're running low on it. I'm all about that, right? Because I'm going to get a deal on the mustard that I like, and I'm not going to run out of the mustard that I like. So you take that exact scenario and you turn it into a cop figuring out that I'm about to speed right before I do, and I'm not thrilled with that, right? So the difference between those two scenarios is one of intent, not really one of kind, because the same technology that might allow one thing to happen could also enable the other thing to happen. One feels like I'm being helped out, one feels like I'm really being intruded upon, right?
Well, the cop's able to see that your coupon for the mustard's about to expire, and so therefore you're going to be wanting to.
I'm lead footing it to the supermarket. That's exactly right. That cop knows me.
Same data.
he knows me only too well. But when you look at in the world of big data, in the world of business intelligence, marketers are getting better and better at figuring out our affinity, the kinds of purchases we're going to make next based on the purchases that we've made in the past. It all started with Amazon, and customers also bought, if you got this, you might also like, and that's getting more and more sophisticated. And think how much more sophisticated it's going to be when the sensors are built right into our homes, when the sensors are built right into our everyday experience. and the feedback is coming at us, right now into our smartphones, eventually right into our visual field potentially with augmented reality when we're in Google Glass or something to that effect. Potentially, the loss of privacy is even greater, I guess, on this business and marketing side. But we might enjoy it so much that we don't mind.
I think that there might be companies that we just choose to say, you know what, they're so good at serving me when they know this stuff that for this company, maybe Amazon I'll allow it, but this other company over here, soap.com, you're not quite as good at this sort of thing as Amazon, so you don't get that data. Maybe we did. Maybe we make decisions like that. I don't know.
Well, and we can only hope that we'll have the capability of making the decision. But assuming we do, assuming it's in our hands, then yeah, it's going to come down to trust. It's going to come down to this company, this retailer, this service provider has demonstrated to me that they're going to use my data in a way that I approve of. They're going to use the data in a way that benefits me, and they're going to make my life better. Therefore, they can use it. As long as it comes down to we're the gatekeepers and we get to make that call, I feel pretty good about the whole thing. I think I think it might work out pretty well. But there's definitely an awful lot of potential for it to go in other directions, isn't there?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And again, I think that is going to be, I mean, it's going to be a long fought battle over this versus that, and ultimately in the past, our expectations of privacy. That's what we talked about basically in my criminal law class back in law school. There are times and places that we have a reasonable expectation of privacy, and then other times and places where we still have some expectation of privacy, but not as much. And then there's places, if you're out in public, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. That's been the traditional distinctions. Home, you have every expectation that's reasonable. In your car, you have some expectation of privacy in your car, but not very much, really.
Right.
And then just walking down the street, you don't have any. And so that's the way we as a society have kind of looked at it. But I think it's about to get a whole lot more complicated than that.
Well, it already got complicated with the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Because where are you when you're on the internet? Are you at home, sitting on your couch in your jammies, or are you in this public space called the internet? And now that public space called the internet is becoming more and more interwoven with our everyday reality, including our most private and intimate reality, where does the line get drawn? Very, very challenging issues for a new generation of law students, huh, Stephen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
we'll
I
wish
see.
you guys well in law school.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in the works here, because I'm going to talk about the fact that it might not be that what's occurring here with the Internet of Things might not be exactly what we think it is. We might not be seeing what we think we're seeing. And what I mean by that is we look at the Internet of Things as the world of data, the online world, stretching farther and farther out into the real world. What I actually think might be happening is that almost the opposite, that the virtual world is kind of bringing the whole world into itself. Now, those sound very similar, but there's a big difference between the two. And I alluded earlier to the big data footprints that we have, and I want to read a little passage from a blog by a gentleman named Irfan Khan. Irfan is the Chief Technology Officer at SAP and a former co-worker of mine when we were both at Sybase. And Irfan writes about big data, and he did a piece on the SAP blog a while back called "Your Big Data Footprint Will Only Get Bigger." And he talks about how we're leaving these data trails everywhere we go, whether we're engaged in retail, whether we're blogging, updating our social status, anytime we go out driving, we're totally interacting with this big data universe. We're consuming data and we're producing data all the time. And he gives this amazing example. He says, consider air travel, one of the primary targets of the efforts to reduce the individual carbon footprint. He actually talks about data footprint versus carbon footprint. He says, if you want to mitigate the damage you do caused by air travel, the most obvious solution is to cut down on the number of trips you take. But there are other ideas too. For example, General Electric has recently announced substantial changes to the design of the CFM LEAP aircraft engine. And this is a jet engine that powers several of the different Airbuses and Boeing aircraft. The new generation LEAP is designed to provide significant reductions in fuel burn, noise, and noxious emissions compared to the current engine. It's designed to generate 32 pounds of thrust, achieve a 99.87% reliability rate, and introduce a $3 million operating savings annually. So people are going to be lining up, obviously, or already have probably lined up to buy this jet engine. This is a big improvement over the engine as it existed before. Where did the savings come from? New sensors intricately track how the engine is operating. The use of data fundamentally transforms how the engine operates and makes it more efficient. But that efficiency requires a lot of data. The new version of the LEAP aircraft engine generates 1 terabyte per day from those sensors alone. So he goes on to talk about how much more efficient, how much quieter, how much cleaner this aircraft engine is. And he says, in every way but one, this engine now operates with a smaller footprint. It requires less fuel, it makes less noise, it generates fewer noxious emissions, it costs less to operate. Only in one area, data, is its footprint expanding. Stephen, what's going on here? What is this phenomenon called?
Ephemeralization.
This is our old friend, R. Buckminster Fuller, and his world of ephemeralization. This engine is slowly entering the virtual world, all right? I mean, it's an amazing transformation when you think about it. By connecting it to the internet, by adding these sensors, by making it essentially an information technology device, it's quieter. It uses less fuel. It's cleaner. But it's producing tons, a terabyte of data every day. This airline engine is producing. Well, we're all producing tons and tons of data each day. And what that speaks to is the fact that our reality, I think, is increasingly existing in the virtual world. We're doing more and more with less and less. Eventually, are we going to be able to do everything with nothing? I don't know. I don't know that we'll ever have a pure data aircraft engine, but interesting that we seem to be heading in that direction, isn't it?
It is. It is. I think about what is done with that data. I think it probably would be stored initially in the airplane's black box, but things like that probably would not be thrown away. That would be part of basically the aircraft's log ultimately, and they'd use that data to determine, okay, well, how is the engine still operating well? Is it time to replace the engine? They'd be able to track that data for the entire life of the engine.
I would think so. I think it's probably not in the black box. There's probably a separate device that's recording it there on the plane. But I'll tell you who wants that data is Boeing. They want that data because they want it to produce the next generation of that engine. And collecting a terabyte of data for every day every one of these engines flies, they're getting a wealth of data that's almost unimaginable. That's going to make an even more powerful, even quieter, even cleaner, even more efficient engine next time around.
It's similar, I guess, to what occurred in our own internal combustion engine cars.
Right.
A generation back, cars had carburetors and no computers. Now they have computers and no carburetors, and the reason is the computers can allow an internal combustion engine to be much more efficient, and use the basically sip the fuel and get much more miles to the gallon because it's just using the fuel efficiently.
Absolutely. And here we have the same principle on steroids, right?
Right. Exactly.
On computer-powered steroids here is exactly what's happening here. So what do you think, Stephen?
Yeah.
In the final analysis, is the internet stretching out into the real world, or is the internet sucking the real world into itself? Are we all becoming denizens of a virtual world by virtue of the fact that we live, eat, breathe, produce data? That's really what everything is becoming.
The picture on the roof of the Sistine Chapel where God is reaching out to man and man is reaching out.
Right.
It might be a little of both. It's
Okay.
it's like the internet is moving into our world and we're moving into it simultaneously. And that didn't mean to be sacrilegious, but that's what came to mind.
Well, it's actually that's a pretty good image. And we like to think, well, we'll meet halfway somehow,
Yeah.
perhaps. But ultimately, I think that some of us are going to go all the way, and some of us are going to be very reluctant and drag our feet. And there's some people who try to leave as small a data footprint as possible, and who reject the whole notion of technology. So there's definitely a broad spectrum of where people are on how ephemeralized they're getting. But to me, it's very interesting that a phenomenon which is viewed as the opposite of ephemeralization, the Internet of Things. Oh, we're not just going to be about machines anymore. It's not just about IT departments. It's about the real world, the whole real world. When you look at it closely, seems to speak as much to ephemeralization as essentially anything else we've looked at on this program over the last few years. When
Yep.
when that thought occurred to me, I said, this is real. This thing that Buckminster Fuller talked about, this is really happening. We are seeing a transition unlike anything that's occurred in human history before. We're becoming ephemeral, folks. I look forward to it. I hope everyone's ready to become less real somehow.
All right, all right. I don't think we will be less real. I think we'll be more real. When we have greater understanding of our world around us, we're not less real. We're more real.
Very
So,
good. All right.
yeah.
We'll have bigger data footprints. We'll be living in a real world and in a virtual world and somewhere in between. And life's going to be great. I like that. I like that perspective. Stephen, what's our music?
Our music tonight is "Ordinary Life" by Sopris or Sopris.
What a perfect send off. Ordinary
Yeah.
Life. Well, thank you, Stephen, for putting that together. Thank you all for being with us. We'll be back again next week with three, not two, three brand new shows on the world transformed. And until next time, live to see it.
It's come back to me, the old familiar faces in the sea. And oh, we tried, like all the others say.